Hey guys, it's me Simo Orohara, and in this video we're going to talk about Gin Ichimaru and the impact his departure had on Kira and Matsumoto, as well as his death and where his grave is located today. Of course, all of these topics guys will be discussed based on 3 secret stories from the game Bleach Rebirth of Souls. We'll focus on the stories of Kira, Matsumoto and Gin, because they are all interconnected. Kira's former captain was Gin, and Gin is Matsumoto's childhood friend. And what I liked in these stories guys, along with Hisagi's story, is that the game chose to focus on something Kubo didn't really highlight in the manga or anime, and it is the emotional toll of the 3 captains' departure on their vice captains. It's true that losing 3 captains and having them side with the enemy was a devastating blow to the GOTY 13 and severely weakened it, but beyond that, the discovering of their betrayal had a huge impact on those who admired them and saw them as role models, like Momo, like Sajin, like Hisagi, and of course like Kira. Kira saw Gin as the one person who truly appreciated him. He put Gin above everything, even himself. All of this stemmed from the fact that Kira saw Gin as his ultimate role model, and someone like me who watched the anime, read the manga, and I have read also some novels. I have gone through all of Kubo's questions and answers. I can confidently say that the game's writers brilliantly drew all of those sources to weave these stories together. And in this video guys, I'll give you examples that prove it, alongside our main topic, the impact of Gin's departure and death on both Matsumoto and Kira. So let's begin guys. First of all guys, I want to say that the introduction of Gin's secret story cleared up a lot of confusion I had about what exactly happened in Gin and Matsumoto's past. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that I have talked about this before. One thing that wasn't clear for me about their past was how to reconcile their flashback we saw at the start of the story, where Gin met Matsumoto while she was alone beside a burning house, with the second flashback we saw during Gin's death, where some Shinigami hurted Matsumoto and Gin saw her. Then we saw Gin watching Aizen along with the very same Shinigami who hurt Matsumoto. My question back then was, did Gin meet Matsumoto during the time she was lying on the ground alone, and then what happened with Aizen and his men came after that, or was it something else? However, the new introduction answered those questions for me. Here we see that the first time Gin saw Matsumoto, she was beside that house, but also with 3 Shinigami standing nearby, so probably he waited until they left and then approached her. That's where the events of the first flashback began. So Gin approached Matsumoto after Aizen's men had already left. And that's where, as you can see, Gin said that he went to her and gave her dried persimmons and learned that she had spiritual power since she could still feel hunger. And this is where Gin said something very important. He said that from that moment on, their relationship was born and they began living together, until one day, Gin saw Aizen with the same 3 Shinigami he had seen next to Matsumoto. Meaning, and based on what Gin said in his secret story, there is a time gap between when Gin first saw the Shinigami near Matsumoto and when he later saw Aizen with them. That's why Gin's statement that some time passed between the 2 events clarified a lot for me. On the other hand, when we look at Kira's secret story, we find several beautiful elements that were focused on. Things that have sources in the manga, Kubo's interviews and the data books, or even some of Kubo's answers from Club Outside. For example, during the events after Aizen, Gin and Chose left for Wikomondo, Matsumoto came to speak with Kira and she told him something that sounded like she was trying to confront him. She said, "You're now in charge of Squad 3, but you don't seem to show any signs of caring about that." As we know, Kira's face really shows emotion. He always has the same look. Kira said that he was born with this face. And that's nearly the same thing Kubo once told a fan when someone asked him why Kira used to be a little cheerful in his past, but later changed. Kubo replied that Kira was never really cheerful to begin with. He said Kira was always gloomy since birth. And something else guys that I really liked, which shows the depth and the care the game creators put into the background of the characters is that in Gin's story, during a training session between Gin and Kira, Gin told Kira something important. He said that he doesn't see fighting as something heroic and that it shouldn't be enjoyable. Fighting or violence only brings despair, and the rest of his words are written here. And as you can read, Gin told Kira that as his vice captain, he needed to understand that. And that's exactly what Kira did. Because later during Kira's battle with that Arankar, when he defeated him, Kira shared Squad 3 philosophy and motto, using the exact same words Gin had told him in the game. And that's not all. Kubo himself in Data Book 2 confirmed that Gin is the captain who best represents the concept of despair, and that there has never been a captain in the past who fits Squad 3 better than Gin. So here we clearly see how all these sources align perfectly to form the words Gin passed on to Kira. And that's not all, guys. There is more. If you remember in the very first flashback between Gin and Matsumoto, we see Gin offering her something. In the game, Gin mentioned that it was dried persimmons. In the official Bleach bootleg book, it stated that Gin has loved dried persimmons since childhood. In fact, when he became captain of Squad 3, he planted a persimmon tree inside the squad barracks, in which Borfruit used to share it among the others. And it was also said that Kira didn't really like his fruit. Now in Kira's secret story, we see that after Rose became his new captain, an officer came to him and told him, along with Captain Rose, we gathered the persimmons and they're ready to eat. Would you like some? At that moment, Kira immediately remembered something. He remembered that tree Gin had planted in Squad 3. He walked toward it and said these beautiful words. The existence of this tree, the persimmon tree, is proof that you were once part of Squad 3. And that's why, guys, I really like these lines and how it has its sources in the manga, data book, and even interviews. Of course, Gin's departure and his death didn't only affect Kira. It's safe to say that the impact was even greater on Matsumoto. She was the closest person to him, spending her childhood years by his side. In fact, Gin dedicated his entire life to avenging her. That's why his death was something deeply painful for her. We saw this clearly both when she arrived and found him dying and in the events afterward. However, the game gives us new scenes, ones we never seen anywhere else. In those scenes, guys, Matsumoto actually asked Yamamoto to allow her to give Gin a proper burial. As we know, Gin died in the real Karakura town that had been moved to Soul Society. Yamamoto told Matsumoto that no matter what Gin's true intentions were, the actions he committed could only be classified as evil, so he would not be allowed to be buried in the Seireitei. However, she could bury him anywhere else. And so it seems Matsumoto decided to bury Gin somewhere in the East Rekongai. And the only person she told about the location was Kira, who came with her, and Matsumoto justified her actions by saying that Soul Society still considers Gin's actions as betrayal, so it's better to keep this matter hidden from anyone. And that was the end of Gin's story, and also how his relationship was with Kira and Matsumoto. As you can see, these three stories reveal many aspects that were hidden between the lines of the manga, and they clarify and this clearly show how these side stories build upon the manga and other sources in a meaningful way. Ending, guys, what do you think about these stories? Tell me, guys, your opinions in the comments, and see you in my next video.